Okay, let me talk to you a little bit about Stephen Colbert, because this guy's just shameless, just absolutely shameless. Last night, he's lashing out at the Trump administration about the equal time demands, and what he was saying was, you know, what happened was the FCC reminded CBS and Stephen Colbert that you have to have equal time, which means if you have one person on that's running as a candidate, you have to have the other people who are also running. So Stephen Colbert said, this is them trying to shut me down. This is not done, blah, 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 blah. Well, let me tell you what the actual rule is on this, because it's pretty important that you understand. So when I first saw the FCC going after Colbert, I immediately thought of the fairness doctrine. And I immediately thought, wait a minute. I don't want the fairness doctrine to come back. This is not the fairness doctrine. The fairness doctrine started under, what a surprise, it was too late for Wilson, FDR, the other villain in our progressive story. He starts something, and in some ways you can see why. There's only a limited number of airspace, okay? And so, if you want to own part of the public airwaves, you have to be responsible, and you have to, talk about the important things, discuss tough issues, be a service to your community, et cetera, et cetera. And so they came up with the fairness doctrine. Well, the fairness doctrine did a lot of things. You had to have, equal time, et cetera, but you also had to cover all sides of an issue, et cetera, which made most broadcasters say, I don't want to touch anything controversial, because then I got to get bogged down with lawyers and the FCC, and so they just didn't do it. And so a lot of things were left on the table that people just wouldn't address. Well, they did it because of limited airspace. 1980, Reagan comes in, and he's like, there's not limited airspace anymore. You've got cable news. You have all of these cable channels, blah, blah, blah. And he made a case and went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed. Nope, the fairness doctrine is irrelevant now. And it's only even more irrelevant because of all of the podcasts that you have. You can get any view you want. Believe me, you want somebody to say, pedophilia cannibals are a great thing. You can find that channel to tell you that, okay? So the fairness doctrine is not coming back. It's not what the FCC is doing here. What the FCC is doing is enforcing equal time, and that never went away. Equal time does not matter to legitimate news shows, okay? If you are talking about the news every day, and that's what you discuss is news and information, so actual news shows, the evening news, or you have news programs that are responding to what's happening in real time, they don't count. Sunday news programs like this we're dealing with the news of the day as it happens, as it breaks. We're covered with the exemption of news. What isn't covered is the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. What isn't covered is any TV show that is entertainment. Late night TV falls into that category. The reason why we haven't enforced this is because the FCC for a long time was under the hands of Democrats or Republicans who just didn't want to enforce anything, and they didn't care. And the Democrats started, the networks started to label everything as news. The View is now news. And you might be able to make a case on that because they just do talk about the news. Colbert, labeled news. No, it's not. It's a late night show. What they wanted to make sure didn't happen is if you had an episode, let's say, of, Friends, you wouldn't want somebody on the network to say, I want to put that candidate in, and then give him a couple of shots at a couple of different entertainment shows, because that wouldn't be fair to the other candidates. So I didn't want to put him in entertainment programs because it's not fair to the other candidates. Well, the FCC for years has not enforced this, and the left just keeps taking more and more and more. And they have deemed shows like, the late night talk shows as news. It's not. There was Johnny Carson. That was an entertainment show. And then if you wanted to watch something after that, you'd go to Nightline. And Nightline was a news show. Vastly different. I'd like to have Brennan Carr on just to verify that I'm on the right track on that. But I think that is what is happening, is we are confusing things with the fairness doctrine. So anybody who is saying, hey, let's not get involved in this, I don't want to change. This is not the fairness doctrine. This is equal time. And it does not apply to news shows. It applies to entertainment-only shows. Now, if the Democrats come in, do you think they're going to come in and try to apply that evenly and make us do that and say, well, Glenn Beck's not a news show? Yeah, they might. But that would mean that they would have to make sure that Stephen Colbert toes that line. I'm guessing the bet is that they will come in and say, we're not enforcing that anymore. You know, Stephen Colbert he can talk to any candidate he wants, and he doesn't have to have equal time. Okay, fine. And, you know, I guess we can all play by that rule, and that's fine with me. They are not going to try to enforce it on us, because if they do, they have to enforce it on Colbert, because the only thing that's changed is that's not a news show. And they're going to have a hard time making that case. But don't get me wrong, they'll use anything they can get their hands on. We should just be aware of that and know that.